What is up, fight fans? It is time for the MMA plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. We are coming to you live from the number 38 presented to you by Volo. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. You can give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Want to give a huge shout out to the Mile High Sports crew here. They're doing tremendous things covering all things sports right now. You've got college football in full swing, full tilt. You've got the Broncos having a spectacular performance on Monday Night Football, seeming like they're getting things going now as we pretty much got through a quarter of the season. As crazy as it is to sound, like Danny and I were just talking before the show about how are we already in October, folks. The time has just sped through. We are in the final quarter of the year, but I digress. You have the Nuggets and the Avalanche approaching their kickoff for the season. You also have the Rockies, who just finished the year. So, no more weekly shots as far as the Rockies record goes, but have to have one final just jab as we get them out of the way here. They finished just 2 games removed from having the worst record of all time. So while a dubious honor of avoiding that, that still just puts it in perspective of how bad this ball club was this year. Keep up to date with all things sports with the Mile High Sports crew. Like, share, and subscribe wherever possible. Give them some love, whether it is the magazine side of things, merch drops, the podcasts, YouTube, socials, all of those things combined. Moving along to the Colorado rundown. We've got events going down for the next few weeks, pretty much. There is no shortage of things that you can go be a part of, be a spectator, all of that here on the local front, up and down the Front Range. This weekend down at the Colorado Springs City Hub, you have Battle MMA Championships going down. There is a lot of familiar faces from up and down the Front Range that you can expect to see on the card this weekend. Our friend of the program, Relentless Chris Alone, is going to be on the card. You have guys like Tommy Lozano. You have Dylan King is on the card. You have, like I say, there's a multitude of fighters from all around within the area that you would recognize that are going to be getting after it on that show. The weekend after that, next weekend, we have Colorado Combat Club going down on the 10th. That is Friday night at the Stampede. We've got a couple of the countdown packages that have released so far for that show. Those are on the Colorado Combat Club Instagram page. That is at CO Combat Club on Instagram, so you can go check those out. We have in the co-main event, Connor Leonard taking on Brandon Waters. We've got our friend of the program in Miguel Barrientos is also going to be on the card. All of those countdowns have dropped for those guys. We've got a pro kickboxing bout between Alex Gutierrez and Mike Schultz. Countdown is going to be releasing either end of week or beginning of next week, right away at the start of fight week for those couple of guys. We've got in the main event, a couple of Bellator veterans in Justin Jerry Train Gonzalez taking on Edwin Chavez. It is a stacked card, ladies and gentlemen. This is one that you do not want to miss. There is also a title fight that's going to be going down between Isaiah Wright and Jacob Spino on the amateur side of things. So, again, all up and down the card, you do not want to miss the action that's going to be going down at the Stampede on October 10th. The next day, there is a Muay Thai matinee going down for the 5280 Muay Thai fight series. That's also going to be at the Stampede, so make sure that you check that out. Back-to-back affair for the sister promotions in Colorado Combat Club as well as 5280 Muay Thai fight series. Then, toward the end of the month, you're going to have the MMA Him Show, the Mile High Five Foundation. That is on October 24th. Shout out to our man Ron Kruk. We're going to also have a couple of the guys from the card on that show, or from that card on our show here, I should say. More on that as the dates come closer, and we'll probably have Ron in the mix too, just to give you a little bit more on the show as well. Following from that, the next week, there's going to be another card in the mix for Sparta, and then that gets us into November, where it's going to be a little bit, there's going to be some events that are happening based on the holiday schedule, but there are going to be a couple of weekends off. And then there is going to be that point in December through, mid-January where things cut off for a few weeks. So look for some big updates as these cards or as these dates get closer toward Q4, and we'll provide you with more of the information as everything goes forward with that. Moving along to the weekend recap. This last weekend for Sparta, there was a fight night card that happened down in Castle Rock. There was a main event title fight with Dante Sciro. You know, he's on quite the run right now. Dante fought a few times in Bellator. He's fought for the LFA, fought for Tough Enough out in Las Vegas the day after International Fight Week card for the UFC. And then he's also he went and had a big win on this Sparta card over the weekend. Again, he's doing everything that he can to plead his case to get the call to the big show. You had Chris Arena in a Muay Thai fight who went out there and picked up a big victory. That's now a couple of fights in a row that Chris has gotten his hand raised. He's a phenomenal striker. That's someone who, if you have the chance to go out there and watch Chris perform, he's true traditional Muay Thai. He's a product of Muay Thai Colorado. He does some coaching over at UFC gym as well. You know, he's a guy who I just think when you watch him fight, when you watch his Muay Thai, he's fun to watch. Oscar Herrera, another one of our friends of the program, he picked up a victory. That is his second win in a row by finish. He got the TKO victory this time at that Sparta card. That's a couple of big bounce back wins that the moisturizer needed. You know, he was on a bit of a downslide, and then in his last couple of fights, boom, right back into the thick of things, 2 finishes. So congratulations to Oscar picking up those wins there. And then another guy who I want to give a shout out to from the card, a kid who I've spoken high volumes of from basically the very first time that I saw him compete. He fought on one of our cards way back in the day. I've seen him fight across multiple different platforms, multiple disciplines, whether it is submission grappling, Muay Thai state tournament, Muay Thai specific rule set, MMA, all things combined. Luis Garola, that kid is a stud. That kid is a young savage in the making. And when people ask me about who are some of the next wave of guys who are on the rise and emerging as top prospects and talent in Colorado, he's always one of the names that's on the list. I think that crew of the Corey Sandhagen fellowship, if you will, or some of those guys who through the years came up under him initially, and once they started competing, the guys of the likes of Elias Rodriguez, Connor Owens, Owen Schultz, Luis Garola, all of those kids are young studs. And that's, I think, also just it just speaks to some of the teachings or the masters of the craft that they came up under. And we're going to speak more about Corey here on the next segment as he challenges for that bantamweight title here this weekend. But moving along from that, we had CJJC going down, 27th show for Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club. That was at Colorado Tattoo Convention and Expo at the National Western, just a few blocks away from here, from the number 38. In the main event, we had our friend of the program in the Big Yins, Josh Friend, picking up a submission in double OT. Big sub for the Big Yins, big victory for him. Josh is now basically switching gears and going to be preparing for his bare knuckle boxing debut. That's going to be happening in December. I believe it's the second week of December. We'll get you more on those details as it comes closer there. Also, that big sweaty ogre picked me up as soon as he won, and I went in there to go announce. I was emceeing the event. Like, thank God I was wearing black, and this was the end of the show. Because my entire body was like, when your dog rubs against your pant leg after they've been slobbering, and there's just like a slime trail. That was the entire side of my body after Josh went through 2 rounds of regulation and into the second round of overtime in this grappling competition. So again, thankfully, I was wearing black. But yeah, you can see the video of Josh picking me up and carrying me around the cage after he won. Love you, Big Yins. Appreciate the memory, but yeah, that was a little gross. We also had Caleb Crump, the Peaceful Warrior, in the co-main event, went out there and picked up a big victory himself. We're going to have more details throughout the rest of the card. You could check that out on the CJJC YouTube page. That way you can have a full in-depth breakdown of each of those matchups, hear more about the finishes and those competitors in the process. We had a bracket, Colin Lyles, kid out of the 10th Planet System down in Colorado Springs, definitely had a breakout type of performance, went out there and ran the table as far as our bracket goes with finishes. So that's another guy to keep a lookout for. But again, check out that full recap and breakdown on the CJJC YouTube page. as well as you can see all of those matches as that are up there and posted as well. From there, we could talk about a couple of matchups on the UFC Perth card over the weekend. In the main event, you had Dominic Reyes taking on Carlos Ulberg. Now, Dominic Reyes, always a guy who at least want to give some love to and pay some some respect and some acknowledgement. He's a friend of the program. He was back trending in the right direction, right? He had those multiple knockout losses after the loss to John Jones. And a couple of those, like the Yuri, that was a brutal knockout. The Span knockout, that was bad. But then he rallied back and had a couple of big performances himself and was right there inching toward title contention once again. Ulberg is as dangerous of a striking matchup outside of Pereira in the top ranks of the 205-pound division as it gets. Another striking specialist, kickboxing striking specialist. The thing with Dominic Reyes is he's already been put out cold a couple of times. And that's what has happened in fights. I mean, I don't want to ever think about some of the gym wars or some of those things that have happened, because there's some guys who, like Vanderlei Silva being one of them, we'll talk more about Vanderlei, who they have so many more knockouts, unfortunately, within their medical history than what we actually saw publicly that happened to them in fights or in brawls that were captured on camera, because Vanderlei was knocked out in a couple brawls that were captured on camera. You go against somebody who is a sniper the way that Ulberg was. Styles make fights, and Ulberg was able to punch Dominic Reyes' ticket, and big finish victory for him. He moves himself closer into title contention. I still don't believe that he has the tools or is well-rounded enough to be a true threat to the title, but I could be wrong. Seeing a striker's delight matchup between Ulberg and a couple of these guys toward the top of the division, I wouldn't mind seeing how things would play out for an eliminator, say against the winner of this weekend's fight between Khalil and Yuri, something along those lines. Who knows? That's just forecasting. Another fight, though, that I definitely want to talk about from the weekend. Another friend of the program, a Denver guy, one of the, to me, just salt of the earth humans of our community here, a tremendous person in Neil Magny. There was a little bit of controversy as a lot thought that there was potentially a stoppage for a tech sub at the end of a round, but the referee ended up calling at the end of the round because Neil was not, in fact, unconscious. Neil then rallies back and finishes with Darce choke of his own. I can understand from the outside looking in or what some of the optics are. I can understand where some people have some protest, or where the Matthews team is saying that they are going to appeal the ultimate decision of the fight to maybe rally for a no contest based off of the referee stopping in or potentially waiving it prior to the bell or to the sound. Now, I'm not one in the position to say what the commission would do or how that goes. All I can go is based off of the referee saying that the fight was not over, that he stopped the round, not the fight. And then Neil came back and rallied to win. We said this before, and we will say it again. Neil Magny is that guy who, if you don't figure out a way to put him away, he's that sort of wily vet that if you don't close out the frame, he's gonna stick around and gonna find a way to just keep on chipping away. And then ultimately, he will find his way to victory if you let him stay around for long enough. Have there been some of these big time hyped up prospects, some of them being your hype trains, if you will, that he's gone against that he hasn't gotten the better end of? Sure. But there's a reason why they keep on putting Neil Magny, even at this stage of his career, up against these top guys who are the next coming of the division. It's because he is still that damn good. And he is still pulling off wins against these guys. Again, it's not always going to go his way, and especially in some of these fights where he is considered a heavy underdog. Well, what do you expect? But on the flip side, again, that is the power of being a veteran. That is the power of seeing so many different looks throughout the years. Even as well-versed as the Celtic Kid, as Jake Matthews is, because Jake is a veteran of crazy experience within the UFC octagon for his age at that, because he was in UFC at such a young age. But going all the way back to when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, more than a decade and a half plus later, here we are with Neil Magny. Someone who's been a leader of teams, a leader of men within their inner circles of their training camps. Just figuring out a way to continue to get it done. And that's the power of skill, ladies and gentlemen. Moving along from that, we're going to have a chat with one of this weekend's UFC 320 main card fighters. We're going to be talking with our friend of the program and local fan favorite. We have Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal. After the break, folks, we're going to be chatting with Youssef. Stick around for that. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports.
With millions of page views every year, ColoradoPreps.com is the #1 source for the high school sports community to keep up with the latest news and scores. From football and volleyball to basketball and softball, ColoradoPreps.com provides a year-round hub for coaches, friends, and family to stay connected to their favorite schools and athletes, and keep an eye on their rivals. Covering high school sports from the peaks to the plains, you always get the latest at ColoradoPreps.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. We've got a special guest hopping on with us today, Mr. Main Card himself. On this weekend's UFC 320 card, we have number 9 ranked featherweight Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal. Yussi boy, how you doing?
I'm good, my man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time, bro. I know it's crunch time last little bit before hitting the road and off for travel day and hitting Las Vegas, so we're grateful for you as well. Youssef, how does it feel to be now inching closer to that top 5 spot? You've got Josh Emmett on Saturday. It's a big opportunity on a big card. Just what are your initial thoughts?
I'm taking it as a grateful moment and a blessing, you know what I mean? And I'm taking everything I can, you know what I mean? I go in and do what I do best and perform and change my life. And like you said, it's a big card and there's a lot of eyes on it. There's a lot of media on it. There's a lot of things on it. So the rest is all up to me when I go there on October 4th. So all the hard work is done and everything is done. Now we just gotta cut the weight and get that going and time to have fun after that, you know?
Oh, for sure. Now, in relation to in relation to getting to this point, getting back into the UFC, you've been white hot on this run. You've rattled off win after win in the process. Now, there was, maybe a little bit of fans who had some drawbacks potentially to the last performance with Calvin Kattar, but winning is hard. Winning in the top ranks is hard, period. That's a dangerous opponent that you dominated the fight nonetheless. Is there maybe any bit of a factor for your approach based on maybe the reception of the last fight, or is it still, hey, you've got a job and winning is no, it doesn't matter what the critics or the fans say, winning is what's important?
I mean, I really don't care what they say, you know. I'm just a petty guy. So it's like for me, I just like I get an opportunity to go really show these guys what really I am and how good I am. You know what I mean? So, and the end of the day, what matters is the win, and we get out of there healthy, and then that's what's most important. You know what I mean? And give it everything I got. And like I said, I had a lot of mixed feelings about my own performance just because how I am. I go hard on myself most of the time, but again, it's like, the fans don't, I never experienced that in my life. That was the first time ever. So, and yeah, it just it gets you, it puts a little fuel in you, and then gets you a little bit that. And with me, like I said, man, I'm petty, so it makes it exciting for me.
I'm sure you probably have a list of receipts or screenshots from people who sent something. I mean, I just knowing you the way that I know you through the years, I know that you've kept track or you're going to remember who said what. And if it's anybody that was on the broadcast panel or anybody that was involved in Media Week, I'm not going to be surprised if they get put on the spot either.
Yeah, no, those guys are good. Those guys are good. They always been good right now. They all the podcast broadcast team and all that stuff. They've been good. You know what I mean? So, and the fans, I really don't say the fans. I mean, like it's just fans. You know what I mean?
You
But
got Michael Chiesa shell shocked.
yeah, well, that's my guy. So I don't know if he actually is going to be there too. So he always bet against me, and I always win. So maybe we keep that tradition going. So, but yeah, man, I just be interested about the mic talk. I'll just say that.
Now, in terms of matchup itself, Josh Emmett, obviously he's been around the block. He's been in the UFC for quite a long time. He's been a fixture in the rankings at featherweight for years now. He challenged for an interim title against Yair some time back. What does it mean for you to go up against somebody who does have the name or who has had the status that he had? He was on I can't remember, it was like an 8-9 fight win streak, something like that, all until he got to that title shot. Somebody who does have the resume that he does. What does that mean for you to have this opportunity?
Bro, it means the world to me, you know what I mean? And I finally get to put like a little respect on my name a little bit, you know what I mean? I feel like I've been in the top 10, and I just got into the top 10, and not like a whole lot of people kind of like passing me a little bit. So it's a great opportunity for me to really put my name up there. And like you said, it's like he's only been finished like twice in his whole career. So for me to go out there and really perform against him, it really puts my name up there, and gets the respect, and it proves all my hard work that it's working, and that's what most important, what I mean? It gives get a little peace in my mind, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, it's definitely the biggest opportunity in my life, and I'm so grateful for it, and I'm so excited for it. I can't wait till October 4th.
Certainly, certainly. Now, in terms of the X's and O's, Josh Emmett, we all know at this stage of the game, we know what his bread and butter is. It's the big overhand. What have you done, not necessarily to reveal anything stylistically, but what have you done in preparation just to make sure that all stones are unturned, everything is taken care of for the preparation side? Who have you brought in? What has been some of the work that you've done to prepare for this fight?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously it's an MMA fight, so I have to get ready for everything. You know what I mean? And we don't know what the game plan they come in with. You know what I mean? And but I kind of like not really focus on that so much. So I focus on me, like what is my bad things, whatever I'm good at, what I need to sharpen up and stuff like that. So that was kind of like the most thing I focused on, and obviously the big respect of the right hand. So you have to respect the right hand. You can't play traitor shots with him. You know what I mean? So he's not pretty known for his right hand, but hey, it's a fight, so we'll see what happens when we go in there. But yeah, man, I've been training a lot with AJ Fletcher. That was my main guy for this fight, and obviously Lolo as well. Lorenzo, he's one of the upcoming amateur guys, and he's my boy, and I really can't wait to see him at the pro level. And then obviously I bought Miles Johns for a couple of days as well, so that was very helpful. And yeah, man, it was a great camp. It was a hard camp, and really went after it. And I'm excited for to see all that work pay off.
Obviously, you guys are preparing for two different styles of fighter, but also you did have some preparation or some time in the gym with Corey Sandhagen throughout this camp, with him also being the main event of this card, fighting Merab Dvalishvili for the bantamweight title. How does just having someone else who is trying to peak in redline on that same day, along with someone who is just the wealth of knowledge like he is, how does having somebody like that who is targeted at the same point, as well as your teammate Chris Gutierrez, who's also going to be on the card, who has been, within the rankings and someone who has achieved some of the high points of this sport as well. How does that help?
Oh, it helps a lot, just to feed out of each other's energy. You know what I mean? You see that like this guy's really pushing. You see this guy really focus on his game plan and all this stuff. So like it just like kind of like energy vampire we call it as a Factory X thing. But it's like yeah, it definitely like you feed off each other and then really work and nonstop. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a great energy. I'll just say that like the energy is definitely different. You walk in and you're like. Well, yeah, I better get my stuff together, you know what I mean, and everything together. So it's a blessing too, to have that opportunity to train with all these guys and to have them all in a gym and stuff like that. It's we don't get that often now these days, especially now these days. I feel like everybody likes to be on their own thing, but yeah, it's definitely a blessing for sure.
Certainly. Now, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first time on a main card?
First time on a pay-per-view,
On a
yeah.
pay-per-view main card, yes.
Yeah, yeah, main card. I've been on a fight night main card, but
Right.
and I was only like twice. But yeah, this is my first time ever on a pay-per-view.
So yeah, you get to have the extra pop of the crowd. It's a full crowd then at that sense. Because I mean, obviously, it was this fight right here, but for your debut down in Houston, but you were one of the first fights of the evening.
I was
So
the first fight of the night.
yeah, very first fight of the night against Austin
Yeah.
Lingo. So there was still a pretty good crowd there already in the arena in Houston. Sometimes some of the prelims, obviously, they fill in a little bit later as the night goes on. But to actually be, in the thick of things on the main card, you're going to be there making that walk once the crowd is filled. There's been all the fight bros in the crowd. They've been having some barley pops for a couple of hours and they're feeling no pain out there. You've got the Just Bleed crew that's doing their thing. So, do you ride off of that energy from the crowd?
100%, bro. I'm sick and tired of fighting at the Apex. You know what I mean? So that means that like my best performances are been in crowd. So I'm like, I feel like I was like I need to be there, and I feed off energy. You know what I mean? I'm an energy person, obviously, if you know me, but and I like that. That's like this is what we do. This is what we're about. You know what I mean? We're an entertainment sport, and also like to feed off that crowd and see that. So yeah, man, I've been dreaming about it nonstop, and it means a lot to me. So I can't wait to make that walk and really see all the hard work going into this fight.
Now, shifting gears a little bit here, it's somewhat along the same lines, but also a little bit different. At this stage of the game, you are such a veteran within your age already. I mean, it's not like you're, old in the sense of where some of the older guys on the spectrum of the sport are, but in terms of maybe the knowledge piece or the IQ, some of the achievements, already being a black belt within your 20s, all of those things, so on and so forth. You've always been somewhat in a leadership role of the team, but now you are that veteran. You are that guy who is, you are now someone who has the experience that also supplements the knowledge that people basically came to you for years along the way. But now you can say, well, yes, I do have this top 10 ranking. I do have these finishes in the UFC. I have done X, Y, and Z things. What does that mean to you now, just on a personal level? Would you sit there and just kind of, maybe it's a night when you're sitting back, the cat's sitting right there, you're reflecting, maybe after playing your racing game or something, you're just like, man, I've done some cool things. And like, it's kind of a cool spot to be in. Do you ever have those moments?
100%, man. Like I go into like life sometimes and I really be like, man, like imagine if I stopped fighting after what I said I was gonna be done after fighting, after being cut and all that stuff and things like that. And like I really not really try to focus on being a role model or anything, but if you with me and you're close to me, like I want to make sure that you have that high standard, that high quality things that you need to get done. You know what I mean? Because like you said, like experience was the best teacher that ever taught me in life, and it's still happening to this day. It's never nonstop. So for me to give it to these guys for free, you know what I mean? Not really doing anything about it, and to kind of do it and show them how it's done as well, not just tell them. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of times we be saying, "Oh, you need to work hard, this and that," but they don't. They're like everybody thinks work hard is showing up one day and then leave. You know what I mean? That's not really working hard. So working hard is when you succeed and then win, and then like let's see you back, let's see what you done, let's see how you do it and stuff like that. So Yeah, man, it's amazing to see. It makes me happy. I feel like I'm doing something on this earth that I get people to kind of really see that.
Yeah, so you were just saying basically that, it feels good to be seen as a role model, or it feels good that people look up to you in a sense.
Yeah, man, it just shows you're doing something right in this world. You know what I mean? I feel like, especially now these days, this world is it's like miscommunication, like misjudgment, whatever. There's a lot of things going on in this world. So for me to have some sort of a role model on a kid or on a person, it means a lot to me, and it means I'm doing something right.
Absolutely. And at that, it's at an international level, I mean, I feel like the trips that you've made back home, every single time that you go back, you can see just the love of all of your fellow countrymen back home in Morocco. Like, the way that they look up to you, like you can't fake that sort of love.
100%. And that's what it is, man. I wanted, like, I see myself in those kids, you know what I mean? And for me, I got the opportunity obviously to come to the US and really change my life and really go from there. So I want to give that opportunity for them as well, and really open up hopefully more hopes and more hard work and all that stuff in Morocco. So I can't wait to keep doing that, and I will do that until I get to the top.
Definitely. Now, you see, as we're starting to tie some things up here, I got to ask you because you're one of the most disciplined guys that I've ever met throughout the fight game. But I also know that no matter what the case is, we've all got our vices. We've all got some of the things that, they're just the temptations. What is the hardest thing for you to cut out or to dial back on during fight camp? For some people it's sweets, for some people it's carbs like pasta or pizza. Some people it's stuff like sushi. What is the hardest thing for the Moroccan Devil Youssef Zalal to give up? And I know it's going to be something sweets related.
Oh yeah, my chocolate for sure, bro. Dessert, yeah, 100%. But I think the biggest thing is like just like meals. Like I feel like sometimes I get like extra hungry and I'm like wake up at night and stuff like that. I'm like, man, a pizza would sound nice right now, you know what I mean? But you can't really do that, you know what I mean? Because you gotta feel that. So yeah, I would say, boy, chocolate. Yeah, keep that thing away from me, bro. That's my kryptonite, bro. And I feel it too. Like I feel such a post guilty pleasure. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I eat it and I'm like, oh God, tomorrow's gonna suck. And then stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely got to know your body, understand your body, and then really just kind of play around with it a little bit.
Well, it's crazy that you say that because I had this conversation when I was out in Vegas for that card last week when I was out there for it, and or a week and a half, whatever it was, for the Baroka XFC show, and had this exact conversation of pretty much everybody who's been in the fight game for at least a measurable amount of time. You have an eating disorder of a certain extent, like a binge eating disorder to a certain extent because
100%.
you're crashing and depleting a lot of these things. Like you're still getting, you're still having a very rounded, balanced diet, getting all your macronutrients and micros and all of those things. But it's hyper restrictive of pulling some of those things out. The fight goes and happens, and then it's just all out binge for a few days of pretty much seafood, eat food.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, but the problem with me is I'm like the opposite. I was like, I come back, and if I'm training and if I'm in town and I'm like back to the gym, like I don't give myself a break, like I'm fine. But when I come back, the problem is I'll just eat like two big meals the whole day. So like I don't like eat, but the biggest thing is snacking. That's like when I snack a lot because I'm like I really don't feel hungry. I'm like still recovering from the weight cut, still recovering from the hype of the fight and the joy of the fight. So it's like kind of like living that a little bit. So I'm like just chilling. But yeah.
Bro, you are the only person who I know who comes back from your couple of days away after a fight and just eating your sweets and your treats and all that, who comes back with a head that is like two hat sizes bigger.
If I let myself go, bro, yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
first time
that's
that you came back from visiting back home, like we're like, oh Jesus, Yusuf looks like Jimmy Neutron. Like his head is like 2 times too big for his body right now.
Yeah, boy, ooh, boy.
But I mean, it sheds quick once you're back in the mix. But it was just like that's where like some guys, things blow up in other spots, or some, they get super big or bloated looking. Like you don't get big anywhere else besides like you could just see all of the retention all up here.
Yeah, I gotta sit in the sauna or something, bro. Get that thing out of my head, bro. What's going on? Big ass head.
I love it. I love it. Now, as we tie things up, one last serious question here for you, UC boy. Is there any song, a quote, maybe a passage of scripture, a movie scene, anything of that sort that is telling the tale of Yusuf the Moroccan Devil Zalal for this camp?
Oh God. Oh, that's good. That's a good. Uh, well, my boy Unama got me on his walkout song, and that's like been my favorite song. That's like been a hype song for me, and it's called "Peace" by Moped, and I feel like that's kind of like the biggest thing. I feel like I kind of just had a lot of peace with my mind and all the pressure and all this and that. So I would say that that's my biggest thing.
Okay, okay, that's a great answer.
Yeah, a little
Now,
peace.
as we tie this thing up right now, UC boy, is there any other message that you want to get out there to your friends, family, supporters, sponsors, anybody out there?
No, man, yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you to everybody that supported me, the true fans, the fake fans. I love you no matter what. And then, yeah, man, I can't wait for October 4th. Make sure to tune in. Make sure to get your pay-per-view, even though I'm not gonna get nothing out of it, but you make sure to go watch it. And then, yeah, I'll talk to you guys after that.
Thank you so much, folks. That is Yusuf the Moroccan Devils Zalal. Catch him on the main card this weekend at UFC 320. He'll be taking on Josh Emmett. UC boy, we're all rooting for you. We'll be here supporting you from the mile high. And folks, we'll be right back to you after the break with more original combat sports programming. I'm Jordan Kurtz alongside Youssef Zalal. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports.
At Hooters, you can watch all the games with your buddies. All your buddies. Like the ones with ice cold beer. And wings that'll knock your taste buds into next Tuesday. You know, buddies you won't have to fight for the remote. Buddies who know a thing or two about football. And the fans who live for it.
Where else are you gonna get all this?
Hooters, your official hangout for game day.
Welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Got my man, Danny Bailey, behind the boards, holding it down for us as always. Shout out to Yusuf the Moroccan Devil Zalal, going to be getting down on this weekend's UFC 320 card. Speaking of which, we're going to go through a little bit of a preview here for that card going down this weekend out in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. You've got 3 fighters from Colorado that are going to be fighting on this card. You've got Corey Sandhagen, who is going to be fighting in the co-main event, challenging for that bantamweight title against Merab Dvalishvili. You've got Yusuf the Moroccan Devil Zalal, who is going to be on the main card as well. And then you have Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, who is going to be on the prelims, taking on Farid Basharat. Great matchups for Yusuf and Chris. Obviously, Corey, he's got his hands full with somebody like Merab. I think that if there is somebody right now who can potentially beat Merab, it is Corey with the versatility of the skill set that he has. I do think that Corey can figure out the right angle or the right timing to be a sniper, because Merab has shown that outside of figuring out a sniper shot, it's going to be a tough go with him. He's just so relentless. As his nickname suggests, he is a machine, if you will. But when we look at the overall skill set and we're talking about the tactical game plan or the X's and O's, Corey Sandhagen is arguably one of the most gifted fighters on the entire roster. Again, though, it's a very tall task. Probably a bit of a homer pick on my side of things, being from Colorado, getting to watch Corey from his early pro days all the way up through to this stage, and getting to see him work in the gym from time to time, of course, yeah, I want to see the guy win. Why wouldn't we want to have an undisputed champion here from Colorado? I think that if you're one who is looking for a come up on an underdog pick at the books, that is your pick right there. As far as Youssef with Josh Emmett, as we talked about in the interview, we know what Josh Emmett's bread and butter is. It's that big right hand. I think that Youssef has done the necessary work to prepare for it. And I think that he has the skill set and the ability and the awareness and the speed to be able to get the job done and potentially steal the show on Saturday night on that main card. There's a lot of big fights that are happening on that main card, but when you have somebody who's going to want to bring the car crash like Emmett, that also means that on the flip side, he can also run right into something just the same. You have Chris, who's going to be taking on Farid Basharat on the prelims. Stylistically, it's a good matchup for Chris. Basharat is going to want to try to close the distance on him, is going to try to use things in tighter spaces. There's nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but there is, of his time and of his tenure, there are very few guys who are more defensively efficient than what Chris has been. His ability to keep a fight at his range, to stay on the outside, to pick, to just chip away. I think that all of these things play a major stylistic advantage for Chris Gutierrez in that matchup. But moving back up through the card, now that we've discussed our Colorado fighters, you have Alex Pereira in that main event, who is challenging for the title that was once his, looking to rematch against the guy who he has had bad blood ever since the initial fight was announced way back when with Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev, the sitting champion, believes that he has all the skills to repeat what happened in the first bout and then some. And on the flip side, you look to potentially have a very motivated Poatan who could be seeing limited time left on the clock at 205. Could be looking at limited time left in general. I mean, he's in the later stages of his 30s, so there's only a couple of years of fighting period left, and especially at a high level. I think that Saturday night will be a big determinant of what direction is next. Obviously, heavyweight is something that is always going to be on the table for him, especially with as barren as the talent pool is at heavyweight right now. Moving along from that, you have Yuri Prohaska, who has taken on Khalil Roundtree Jr. I don't care what night this is, what card, what event, where in the world. This is a take my money type of fight. This is a fight that Mick Maynard was in his bag for. Putting this together on paper, what a tremendous matchup. The fans win. There is no way that this fight is not something spectacular. You have two guys who will go out there and will just leave everything in the cage in pursuit of being that man in the arena. Another fight that has a chance to deliver fireworks with a potential highlight reel, obviously favoring the Pyfer side, but you have Joe Pyfer taking on Abus Magomedov. A couple of middleweights who Magomedov, at times he's had some lackluster performances, but that could lead for a big showing for Joe Pyfer. You have another middleweight matchup between Edmund Shabazian taking on Andre Muniz. I think this is a really well-curated matchup between a couple of guys who at one time were very heralded prospects who were getting fast-tracked and have then since had their hype train derailed. It's going to be a good matchup between those couple of guys. You have Patchy Mix looking to bounce back in his sophomore affair after having a very pedestrian effort and a pretty dominant loss to Mauro Batista in his UFC debut earlier this year. You've got Puna Soriano taking on Nikolai Veretennikov, which does have a potential to be a banger on the undercard at 170 pounds. There's Ramiz Brahimai, who's going to be taking on Mr. Van Zant Austin Vanderford. And then you have Veronica Hardy, who she's taken on Brogan Walker, who Brogan Walker was on The Ultimate Fighter a couple of years ago. When this fight got announced a few weeks back, there was a lot of fans, and myself included, who were kind of surprised, like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that Brogan was still on the roster, considering her last fight was 2.5 years ago. So, hey, shout out to her having the chance to go out there and make another UFC paycheck in the process. That's a very loaded card right now that we're going to get this weekend for this pay-per-view. Are there any fights that you have a lean on? Is there anybody who you think could be the potential breakout performer for the show? Obviously, there are some A-list names, but there's also some very quality rising prospects and some, dare I say, on the cusp of being contenders in the mix on the card. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up on social media. That's Jordan Kurtz at Comments from the Peanut Gallery on Instagram or on Threads. But now, to close out the show, we are going to go 3 rounds. I got my man Danny Bailey behind the boards. First round.
Vanderlei Silva was knocked out cold during a post-fight brawl after getting disqualified in a boxing match down in Brazil. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Vanderlei. First off, missed weight by like 40 pounds. I know some of the reports were, well, it was based off of, what the original matchup opponent was and the last second fill in and blah, 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 blah. I really don't care if you miss by that much, whether exhibition, not, whatever. Or especially if it is actually a sanctioned bout. If you miss by that much, come on, what are we doing here? Regardless, why are we having that much of a discrepancy in weight class? But then when it gets into the actual fight, Vanderlei got disqualified because he was cheating. Plain and simple. He was throwing headbutts. He was doing dirty things in the process. And then, he gets disqualified. A brawl ensues. Well, I can't necessarily blame the folks from his opponent's camp who came in swinging at him based off of the way that he was cheating and throwing headbutts during the fight. I mean, as blatant as it can get. We obviously, for licensing rights and all that reason, we can't show you a direct replay on it. But I'm sure at this stage, you've all seen either the actual penalties happening within the fight, or for sure have seen Vanderlei getting knocked out cold in the center of the ring by a dude in a tuxedo and then being drugged lifelessly to the corner of the ring so that he doesn't get trampled in the process of the melee. His son Thor was involved in the process, as well as Fabricio Verdum. I mean, if something is going to go down, you want a friend like Fabricio Verdum. That's for damn sure. I mean, Fabricio Verdum being former UFC heavyweight champion of the world, alone by that, that's obviously a pretty good guy to have in your corner. Him being a big, massive human, Valio was in there and just throwing haymakers at everybody that was moving in their direction. So I guess regardless of whether, because Vanderlei was absolutely the one in the wrong. But again, getting sucker punched and knocked out by the guy in the tuxedo, you can say whatever you will of that. But, I don't even know if you can call it a sucker punch in the midst of a melee and a brawl the way that it was happening. Some people calling it a sucker punch. Some people saying fair game. You be the decider of that, one way or the other. Vanderlei was the catalyst of everything happening based off of the fouls that he was committing with the headbutts. But underlying, the silver lining in this dark cloud is that if you want to find one positive that Vanderlei had, well, you can say that you have a real friend in Fabricio Verdum. That's about the lone win that Vanderlei has from it. Suffered a lot of injuries in the process.
Artem Lobov versus Zubara Tuhugov scrapped from PFL card in Dubai at last minute. Are you disappointed that the grudge match fell through?
Yeah, I'm definitely, I'm disappointed that the fight isn't happening, just simply from the fact of that would give a little bit of closure to the bad blood between the camps. This is a feud that's dating back, basically almost a decade now at this point. It's crazy as that sounds. Not a full 10, but if you remember back in time, Artem was the source of one of the initial jump off points of one of the biggest rivalries, one of the biggest conflicts, one of the biggest altercations in the history of the UFC. Artem famously was a part of Conor McGregor's camp way back in the day and had the conflict and the interaction with the other Russians at the hotel where, a baby grabbed him and, there was the little bit of the scuffle at the hotel. That's when then Conor comes flying all the way across the world. They throw Dolly through a bus window. There's some jail time over a couple of days. There's a fight that happens at UFC 229 that leads to a massive brawl that happens in and out of the cage. Yeah, there's a lot of bad blood with long stretching legs all tied back to these couple of guys in the process. Zuba being involved in that, and then Artem now, him and Conor have publicly very much so had a parting of ways, lawsuit included in the process. But all that to be said, I guess, other than I guess maybe having a little bit of that rivalry or that feud in some sort of capacity renewed, I guess this is a fight that otherwise it's going to go off of most people's radar. That's about what it comes to.
Dustin Poirier teased that he would come out of retirement, but only for one specific fight. Are you buying it?
The conditions that he made for that one fight were that it would be a fight with Nate Diaz, a boxing fight, Zuffa boxing, 12 rounds. If there is a fight with Nate Diaz under any rule set, you have to take that fight. At this stage of the game, Nate Diaz is a needle mover. Nate Diaz will draw money. If you are any fighter out there at this point of the game, regardless whether it is going back into the cage for an MMA fight, whether it is a boxing bout, Nate Diaz is big business. That rivalry that he had with Dustin Poirier, if you want to call it that, I guess, they were scheduled to fight at one point. That fight never materialized. Or they were, I guess, proposed to fight. Who's to say? There was the scheduling, there was a contract dispute, what the actual particulars were. There's different stories from the different sides of the equation. Either way, those two don't like each other. And I've always said, this is the business that you get to solve those types of grudge matches, those types of differences, those types of levels of vitriol for each other with these. This is the line of work where you get to do that. So if we have the chance to have two high-profile guys go out there under any sort of rule set, I'm all for it. Because as a fan, we'll obviously have the chance for the entertainment, but for them, it's largely an opportunity to profit massively. And right there, that wraps up our 3 rounds right there. I thought that was second round. My fault.
Yeah, sorry. I thought that was the last one. That was the last one, right?
Yeah. You're good.
Dustin.
Good. Yeah. Dustin Poirier was a third round. Folks, my laptop is not in front of me today, so I got confused as far as what our last round was. Didn't see that right in front of me. But thank you all so much for rocking along with us today. Also, thank you to my man, Danny Bailey, for always holding it down for me each and every week. As mentioned, we have 3 Colorado fighters who are going to be getting down this weekend on that UFC 320 card. That is Corey Sandhagen taking on Merab Dvalishvili for the UFC bantamweight title. You have Youssef the Moroccan Devil Zalal, number 9 ranked featherweight, taking on the number 8 ranked featherweight Josh Emmett. Then you also have Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, who is going to be fighting on the undercard. You can check them out this weekend That main card is exclusively through that ESPN Plus. The last couple of months on this ESPN deal before they shift over to Paramount. There is also going to be that card going down this weekend in Colorado Springs at the Colorado Springs City Hub. So if you have the chance, if you're in that Southern Colorado area and you want to check out some local action, it is definitely going to be a quality show for you to check out over there. Lots of familiar faces that you're going to be able to see getting down in their cage. That wraps it up for us, though, this week. We'll be back with you next week, same time, same place. I'm Jordan Kurtz. You can give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports.